Welcome to Voiceprint with Trevor Devall and Guests. And now, your host and mine, Trevor Devall.
Well, hello, my beloved fans. Welcome back once again to another episode of Voiceprint with Trevor Devall and Guests. I am your intrepid host, and this time, your intrepid host is reporting all the way from beautiful downtown Hollywood, California. We're sitting here with the one, the only, James Arnold Taylor. And we are here at Real Food Daily Organic Vegan Cuisine. It was nice. I had some beans and some lentils. It was good. It's very healthy. So, thank you for being here, James.
Oh, thank you for having me, Trevor. It is, it's been such a cool year for me. Us getting to know each other and work together, and for me to go to Canada and meet everybody, and actually, after 5 seasons, do a show where I get to meet the cast. How fun.
It was awesome to have you finally in there. By the way, for those of you who, for some asinine reason, don't know this, James is, of course, among many, many, many other things, the voice of Johnny on Johnny Test, and I got a chance to meet and work with him when they cast me as the new Dookie for the 5th season. So that is why I'm here in sunny California talking with James. So this show's format is a little different than normal because I'm not recording with the usual junk, but rather just with the old handheld thing. But we're going to try and keep the show clipping along as best we can. So, normally what I do is I go through this list of IMDb stuff and we talk about your career, we say what things. But you know what? There's so many here, it would go on and on and on and on and on. So I'm just going to sort of pick out highlights, and we'll talk about it as we go. So first of all, the first one here is Ultimate SpiderMan. As this says, this is in post-production. Are we allowed to talk about this?
Ultimate Spider-Man. Oh, and it's in production. And does it say I'm Harry Osborn on that?
It does. Did they get this wrong?
Here's the great thing. I was Spider-Man. I was in Spectacular Spider-Man a couple years back, and I was Harry Osborn. And somebody has decided I'm Harry Osborn in this new one. So I'm not on this as far as I know, but they could still call and go, hey, we want it. But yeah, I'm not on it.
This is the exact issue I've had with IMDb for years. They constantly get it wrong.
I have a theory about IMDb.
Okay.
Because you can't get in touch with them. If you go, oh, you know what, I want to correct something, whatever. It's just this entire process, and you have to all this, right? And you have to log in, and you have to have all this. I have a theory that it's actually a 13-year-old boy in his basement, his mother's basement, with a bunch of VCRs and DVDs, pausing movies and typing in the names and getting the credits, you know? Honey, come eat your dinner. Mom, I'm working! You know? It's just, who is IMDb and why are they making and breaking careers?
That you shouldn't have spilled this terrible secret. Now we have to take you out.
There's someone... Oh, I have to go, Trevor.
There's a rather overweight, pimply 13-year-old boy coming at us right now. So here's the next one. This is obviously a huge one for reasons that we've already said, but Johnny Test.
Johnny Test, yeah. Yeah, what a great show. A show that they thought would go half of a season.
Really?
Yeah, they didn't think it was going to do much, you know, because it's just like, oh, it's just another obnoxious little kid doing obnoxious things. And I give all credit to me. But no, actually, Scott Fellows, the creator of the show, is insane. And a really talented guy, an insane writer, creator of things, and he's just had such a passion for the show, and I think that's what kept it alive. I really do. His ADD mentality, and that's what Johnny is, and I think people relate to it. A lot of people say that it reminds them, like even 30-year-olds, 40-year-olds go, this reminds me of this stuff from when I was a kid, watching the old kind of cartoons growing up. So there's a nice feel to it, and I think Scott loves that.
That's what I thought too when I got the part of Duke. I hadn't seen the show before, but I thought, oh well, I better research the show I'm supposed to be in. And I loved it because it's so fast-paced, and it is. It's like it's reminiscent of the old Hanna-Barbera stuff, and it's quick and snappy and witty and great. It's awesome. So many here. Another huge one on here is, of course, Star Wars: The Clone Wars, where you play Obi-Wan Kenobi.
I'm not familiar with that.
Oh no. I think it's Star Wars. Isn't that the one? Isn't that's Captain Kirk? Isn't it? I think.
Yeah, the live long and prosper.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah. Okay. So how long have you been doing this, and how did that come to pass?
Clone Wars has had two different versions. There was a micro series of Clone Wars, and I was Obi-Wan. I was cast as Obi-Wan in that originally. And I thought I was reading for like a one-off. I do a lot of voice doubling for celebrities. I thought it was just they needed Ewan McGregor's double for a line or two in the trailer or something. It turned out it was this cartoon. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is great. My two worlds colliding. Mm-hmm. And so that was about 8 years ago. When we did the micro series. They were 3-minute little vignettes that ran on Cartoon Network. And then a few years later, there was this rumor that they were going to actually do a whole series and CG, and sure enough, they did. Dave Filoni, our director, great guy, and I didn't really have to audition. That was the nice part. What locked me in is I had been doing, in the meantime, some of the video games as Obi-Wan. And I did the Revenge of the Sith. The movie was being made at the same time as the game. So I was the Obi-Wan for the game. And there was a scene, so I got to watch a lot of the movie as it was being made. They'd show me stuff green screen, which was really cool. And they bring it in on a plane. They go we could have got arrested for having this. Nobody's supposed to see this. And they'd show me these scenes. In the end scene, where Obi-Wan's cut off Anakin's legs and arms. I don't think I'm ruining that for anybody. Yeah. And he does the whole "You are the chosen one," and he does that. And so I did that scene and really knocked it out of the park for them as far as what I was matching. Right. It's one of those days, what it is, where you go, oh yeah, I got that. You feel good. I'm not saying that to be cocky. I'm just saying I knew when I did it, I went, yeah, that was good. Yeah. And so from that point on, they really kind of went, yeah, this guy emulates Obi-Wan the best and has matched Ewan's voice to the closest. So from there, then we did the series, and it has just gone, the show's really gone well, and I think that's due to the creators of it, and George Lucas and his input as well, but Dave Filoni just does a great job, so it's a fun show. It's a great show to work on.
Well, I haven't heard you in the show, I've only heard you do it beside me in the studio, and it's very creepy when all of a sudden there's Obi-Wan Kenobi beside me. What else we got here? Batman the Brave and the Bold, and you played Green Arrow, is that right?
Yep, Green Arrow and Guy Gardner. Sorry, I'm eating a vegan cookie. We're so Hollywood. Oh, yes. I was cast originally as Green Arrow because Andrea Romano, who is the director, fantastic director, the best in the business for voiceover. She just knows so much of how to get an actor in the right space. Yeah.
I had the pleasure of working with her a couple years ago on some show that I forget.
That's right. And so she cast me in that. She just knew I could do the role. I didn't audition. I was cast. And then I also got to do Guy Gardner, who is a Green Lantern. And Guy Gardner, he's kind of like, Dennis Leary, basically. He's got a funny haircut, and he's kind of a goofball. So it's fun to have those two characters in it. And Green Arrow in it is kind of Batman's counterpart, and he razzes him all the time. And Batman on our show is Diedrich Bader. The movie Office Space?
Yeah.
He was the neighbor, hey man.
Yeah.
And he was awesome. On the Drew Carey show.
Yeah.
And whose line is it?
He's Batman?
He's Batman.
Really?
He's Batman. And he's great. In fact, They originally brought me in to audition for the voice of Batman. But what they were doing, I didn't know, was Andrea was showing me to the producers and stuff to go, this is who I'm thinking of for Green Arrow. Take a listen to him. And I walk in and I see Diedrich there, and I go, well, why am I? He's perfect for this, And because it was more of a comedy, that show,
right? And
he played it so well. And we only did 2 seasons; it just ended. I'm really bummed.
Yeah, wow.
But, it was
I'm
really
gonna have to look.
I'm going to have to look for that one when it comes out because I'm a rather large Batman fan.
What else do we have here? 1 million things. Oh, the Back to the Future games. Now, in these, you played young Christopher Lloyd, right?
Great Scott, there's a direct correlation in time continuum. It's kind of strange. So this is heavy. A lot of people thought I was going to play Marty McFly because I've done a lot of Michael J. Fox's doubling through the years.
And you kind of look like him.
Oh, look at that. Okay, well, that's very nice of you to say. I did some Stuart Little, and then Atlantis: The Lost Empire was a Disney film, and I was his double in that. And then we did a series that ended up the movie didn't make as much money as they wanted, so they made it a DVD, direct-to-DVD sequel. And so, but I was him, and that was my first series, and I worked with everybody in that thing, from, you know, George Takei to Sheena Easton.
Wow. Sheena Easton. Wow.
First episode, I walk in, and I'm nervous because I'm relatively new to it all. And it's my first animated series that I'm the star, I'm the lead character. They got everybody from the movie except Michael J. Fox, and so I sit down, and it's this gal sitting there, a lovely young lady, and she's reading her script. And, hey, how are you? And, good. I'm James. I'm Sheena. And it doesn't click because she's in sweats and hair's up and everything, and she's
She's in her civvies, her civilian fatigues.
Yes. And we're talking, and she's got a bit of an accent, but not anything really heavy, and she can cover it in an instant. So I'm like, oh, she's lovely. I've never worked with her, whatever. It's not until the end of the session as she's leaving, and all my co-stars are going, isn't she just great, man? Sheena Easton is really great. I'm going, yeah, Sheena Easton is great. Wait, that was Sheena Easton? Oh my God, because I was a huge crush on Sheena Easton growing up. So,
who didn't?
Yeah, that was very fun.
What else we have here? Scooby-Doo Mystery Incorporated.
Yeah, I've done a lot of Scooby-Doos. There was What's New Scooby-Doo, then there was some Scooby-Doo video games and stuff. The new show, Mystery Incorporated, is a new one, and I have a couple of reoccurring characters. In fact, next week I'm going in to do George Avocados. He's not avocados. Although if you look at
It's spelled exactly the same. Avocados, but it's avocados.
It's avocados. And then I did kind of a David Spade character on that show as well. That was a Rung Ladderton, I think was his name, right? But it's fun because getting to work with Frank Welker, who's the voice of Scooby now. But Frank he's the voice of Freddy, and he's always been the voice of Freddy.
Right.
He was not always the voice of Scooby. Don Messick, of course, was Scooby before that, who I had the great privilege of working with when I was starting out in radio when I was 18, because we both lived in the same town. And he came in and did some radio commercials. I got to do some at his home studio, and I went, someday. And I called him up. I looked him up in the phone book, Don Messick, who's the voice of, Scooby-Doo, Boo Boo Bear, Mr. Ranger, in the Jetsons and Flintstones and everything. And I call him up, Mr. Messick, I'd really like to, take you to lunch sometime. And he was like, yeah, sure. So I took him to lunch, and of course he bought. And and he talked to me for, a couple hours about voicing cartoons, and I was just in heaven. He told me about when he goes to this audition one day, and they're going, we're trying to find a match for Droopy Dog here, and here's the original, and here's what we're going for. Do you think you can match that? He goes, yeah, I think I can match it. That's me. Because he was the original voice of Droopy Dog. So, but he was Papa Smurf on the Smurfs and stuff. So anyways, I digress. But working with the likes of Frank Welker and Don Messick, Casey Kasem, Casey was doing Shaggy up until this last show.
Right.
And now it's the fellow that played him in the live action films.
Oh, really?
And his name is escaping me. Isn't that awful?
It's I know. I know who you're talking about.
And all the people now are screaming his name, and we're going,
Yeah.
Oh, yes, thank you. But anyways, and he's great, but Casey was doing it, for many, many years.
And you've worked with all these guys, because when we first met, we were doing James had come up to Vancouver to do an episode of Johnny Test in the flesh. And so we were sitting there, and as we do, we're, riffing back and forth and every impersonation I did, you would go, oh, he's great to work with. Every time I'm like, get out of here, really?
And I walk the line because it's I don't ever want to come off oh yeah, I worked with him. I'm just so excited.
Yeah,
Because
totally.
I'm like you. It's I love these people. You grow up with them, or they're just somebody on Seinfeld or whatever that you just love. Great character actor like Patrick Warburton, who I can say is a friend. And I got to work with him on a show we did called Game Over. It was Patrick Warburton, Lucy Liu, myself, and a couple other very talented on-camera people, but they were good comedy actors. It was a funny show. I only went, half a season, but I got to really get to know Patrick during that time. And it was cool because I was kind of the guy, much like yourself, that would come in and be all the other characters. So, they come in and they look at you and they go, oh, okay, this guy's going to do like one line and get out of here. And then you're doing, the 80-year-old guy and then the 11-year-old kid, and they go, oh. And they kind of pull you aside and go, so what's all this voiceover about? So it's pretty cool.
That's awesome. Oh, I'm so jealous. We've got so many. Like, you do a million games. Oh, Ratchet and Clank. This is a big one. This is a giant title. A lot of the fans ask about this one.
Yeah, Ratchet and Clank has been really cool because we've done like 8 or 9 games, I think, now. And I have been Ratchet for all but the very first. The very first one was Mikey Kelly, who was a friend of mine. And he was also in the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles with me.
Right.
I was Leonardo, he was Michelangelo. Right. So Mikey played Mikey. But we don't speak of the Ratchet and Clank, though. But I've had just a great honor being that character, because the writing in that game, TJ Fixman is the writer for most of these things, and he's so good. These play just like any great movie. And it's a buddy film, David Kay,
I was just going to say, David is but now I know nothing about these characters. So who are you, what is he, and what does he sound like?
I'm Ratchet, and strangely enough, he actually sounds like me.
Oh, really?
It's one of the few characters I do that is actually just my voice.
Wow.
Which makes it
weird
and tough. You would know what I mean by this. Because they'll go like, okay, well, give it to us this way, and I go, well, how would I do that? I know how this person would do it, or that person, or Johnny Depp, or but so it is a challenge sometimes. But and David and I are never in the room together.
Right.
But he's Clank. He's my little robot partner, and it's a buddy film. It really is. And Clank's the brains. Clank knows everything. And David does this great voice because it sounds as though they affect it with a computer.
Right.
It's just very clean and crisp, and it's got this, and it's like, how does he do that? And he just does it. It's very cool.
Well, I'll ask him tomorrow night when I interview him. So many here. Lego Batman, the video game. That's super cool. What else? Endless Star Wars games, as you mentioned.
Yeah.
Drawn Together. You were on Drawn Together. This is, I think, one of the most brilliant shows I've ever seen.
Really? Oh, yeah. Drawn Together, I was Wildar Sockbat. So I was the little SpongeBob kind of character in there, Wildar. But I was also the producer of the show, or as they called him, the Jew producer, because they were all Jewish that wrote the show. So, and I thought it was funny that they get the one, Christian guy to be the Jew producer. So, housemates, please report to the living room. That guy. And this week on Drawn Together, And and also the voice you would not expect to come out of a 5'4", 112-pound, soaking wet, guy that looks like David Spade. But that show, we did 3 seasons. They called it 4 because they split the season, so like 8 and 8 or something. Right. That show was so offensive, equal opportunity offender, that the people at Comedy Central were offended by it. And that's why the show got canceled.
Wow.
It was doing great. It was number 1 on college campuses. The DVDs would go on sale and sell out and do really well. And it's like, the guys that created it, Matt and Dave, great guys. That's why I took the role. Because, normally, personally, I do a lot of family-oriented things or kid-friendly things. But that show, I love those guys. And I knew that they were equal opportunity offenders. They were just trying to say, isn't this dumb? Kind of like Howard Stern. I used to work for him when I worked in radio years ago. And I remember this moment with Howard. I'm sitting in the room with him and everybody else. And it's like he kind of looked at me like, doesn't anybody get I shouldn't be able to do this? And so that was that show. And we made fun of everybody, and so that was why I thought, okay, this is fun. And in that show I'm most proud of my vocal work, I think, from that show.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, because I got to be so many different characters. Like in one episode, I'm usually 7 to 10 voices in a show.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's great.
You know how that is when you get to actually do voices that you wouldn't normally do as an ancillary character, and you watch it and you go, oh, that's fun.
Yeah. That's a gift.
Oh man, it just goes on and on and on. League of Superheroes. What else do we have? So Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. This was a game or a show or a movie. What was your involvement there?
Why, yes, it was.
Why, it was all 3?
No, it was a movie They decided to revive the whole Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle thing, and
Just so you know, for the record, I am horribly ignorant of everything that we do. Just so you know, I know less about my own career than anybody else. So when I say I don't really know what's a Teenage Mutant Ninja, I'm just so like living under a rock. So that's why.
I'm kind of that same way, though. I really am. Like, people go, "Oh, did you see the new, Mars Needs Moms or whatever, or the new Pixar movie?" No, I didn't. But I have my own reasons. Most of the time with like the Pixar movies and stuff is because they use celebrities instead of voice actors, and I'd much rather them be using my very, very talented, gifted friends and giving them nice big paychecks.
Boy,
I wouldn't mind being in them myself and making a nice paycheck, but I get tired of all the celebrity stunt casting because they think that it's going to sell.
Yeah.
And that was kind of with the Ninja Turtles. What happened was we did this. I was doing another project with these guys at Imaji that did the graphics, the animation for it, and they kept saying, "He's Leonardo. He's Leonardo." And I'm going, "What are they talking about?" So they pull me aside and they say, "We're making a movie, reviving that whole campaign of that show, and we're going to do a movie, and it's going to be CG, and it's going to be great. And we're going to use just voice actors." All right. Good luck with that. Sure you are. So sure enough, they cast it with just voice actors, and we all voiced everything, and it was great. And then the Weinsteins and Warner Brothers came in to buy it. And they went, no. No, we gotta get you get Seth Green and Seth MacFarlane and Seth whoever, I don't know, get Ashton, what's his name, and the creators of the Ninja Turtles, Laird and Eastman, said no. These guys are the voices of the Turtles. They're the ones that I don't want people looking at Leonardo and thinking Ashton Kutcher.
Right.
So thanks to them, we kept our jobs. All of our other friends that voice actors were replaced by celebrities.
That's a rare moment of victory for the soldiers in the trenches like us. Oh, that's great.
And same with the Clone Wars film. When we did, because the Clone Wars CG, the TV show, started we had a movie that came out that introduced it. And that was the same thing where they kept all of us. And that was a big deal, except Sam Jackson, T.C. Carter, who plays Mace Windu in the show. Sam Jackson did come in and do his voice, and then also Christopher Lee replaced Corey Burton. And I don't know anybody listening if they know who Corey Burton is, but Corey Burton is one of my absolute heroes and one of the dearest people in the world to me, and a voice god. He has been everything in so many films and TV and Disney and all of that. And Christopher Lee himself went, "Well, I don't know why you're bringing me in. He sounds just as good or better than me." He does it better than me, and he does. He does a better Christopher Lee than Christopher Lee at this point. Yeah.
And speaking of that, you do a ton of voice doubling. Who are some of the people that you double for, and what are the projects?
Why?
And why? My God, man, why?
I do Johnny Depp, so I've been Captain Jack Sparrow, or Willy Wonka, or oh, Alice, this is making me madder than a hatter, and David Spade, and Michael J. Fox, Christopher Walken. I was him in a game for 007, and there was a review, and the review said Christopher Walken is brilliant in this game, so I assume I did okay. But Ewan McGregor, Shia LaBeouf, James McAvoy, Justin Timberlake, to name a few.
And you also do the most kick-ass Johnny Carson I've ever heard.
Thank you. Johnny Carson was my hero growing up. I don't know if anybody knows who Johnny Carson is now.
I know. The people we're talking to right now are probably going, Johnny who? Is that Johnny Test under a different name?
It's the guy that was before Jay Leno, okay?
Yes.
I looked at the recorder. Did you see that? As though I was looking at them.
I do know this.
So Johnny Carson was, it was the best. He was a king, right? Two camels walking in the desert. One turns to the other, says, "I don't care what anyone says, I'm thirsty." And I have a stage show, and in the long version of it, I do a tribute to Johnny Carson, because I grew up wanting to be a comedian and be on his show.
Yeah.
He was the king, and he was so good at what you're doing, my friend, and being so good at letting the person that he's interviewing be the star while still having control and being funny and delightful and all that. He was just the king of that. He was so great. but he formulated who I have been in my head. So I drop into Johnny all the time. But yeah, it's very sad nobody knows who he is.
Well, I do every time.
Yeah.
I think that's how we first bonded.
Yeah.
Was the Johnny, and I was like,
Johnny
oh my
and
god.
Seinfeld.
Yeah, totally. Every time there's a Seinfeld reference, we're like, oh my god, totally, we know that. Anyway, listen, we could go on and on and on and on and on, but I've got a show to do here. There. I'll tell you what, we're going to take a little break for the fans. When we come back, we're going to talk a little bit about how you got into the business, and then we'll take some questions.
Awesome.
So don't go anywhere.
I already told you, man. Ray Ayanami is the hottest anime character ever.
Oh, please, hello? CC from Code Geass is so much hotter. Give it the time.
Gee, never. I hate you.
We're being such a noob. Gah.
Hey, calm down there, campers. I think I've got something you should take a listen to.
There's more to anime than just who's hotter than who.
That's why we at the Anime Counterpoint aim to discuss less obvious topics in anime and offer you a new outlook on your favorite genre.
And you have a chance to join us in the debate. Simply send us your questions and comments to animecounterpoint@googlemail.com, and we'll bring your thoughts to the table.
Join me, Masako X,
Myself, Kaiser Neko.
And I, HBI2K.
for the Anime Counterpoint at animecounterpoint.blogspot.com. Look forward to hearing from you.
Canadians planning to go abroad. Stay tuned for an important announcement affecting all Canadians. This is an important message about Canadian tourist syndrome.
My wife and I were on vacation in Egypt when I started making claims that Canadians had built the pyramids. Of course, it's ridiculous, but in my mind, it made perfect sense.
Canadian tourist syndrome, or CTS, is a brain disorder affecting 1 in 1 Canadians when they leave Canada and travel abroad. Victims often have no idea they are carriers and seem oblivious to how arrogant, pithy, and stupid they sound to others. Started with one little Canadian flag stitched onto my backpack for fun. 3 days later, I was draped head to toe in red and white Canadian flags and bragging about the band rush to anyone within earshot. I have no memory of doing any of this. It was like I just saw red. Symptoms include utter conviction that Canadians invented everything, constantly comparing everything to Canada, the misguided belief that the world loves Canada because of long-forgotten battles in World War II, irrational cravings for Tim Hortons coffee when in Italy, the very heart of quality coffee, delusions of Celtic heritage because your grandmother once ate a can of Irish stew, and maple syrup anal leakage.
I was having a drink in a pub in Belfast. Next thing I knew, I was comparing the troubles in Northern Ireland with the NHL hockey strike and comparing Jerry Adams with Don Cherry. The frightening thing is, I was completely serious. It's a good thing nobody listens to Canadians, or I might have really looked like an asshole, eh?
CTS can ruin your vacation and the image of Canadians worldwide. If you or anyone you know experiences these symptoms while on vacation, remove yourself from the immediate vicinity, breathe deeply, and most importantly of all, shut the fuck up.
You're listening to Voiceprint with Trevor Devall and Guests.
Well, we are back with the lovely and talented James Arnold Taylor recording live from beautiful downtown Hollywood. Well, we're not really downtown, and it is technically Hollywood. It's West Hollywood we're in
West
now.
Hollywood. Yeah, so you are kind of downtown Hollywood.
Really?
Yeah.
I don't. Okay, well, we'll go with that. Beautiful downtown Hollywood here.
If you looked up over the building or stood on top of the building, you could see the Hollywood sign.
Oh, see, that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to have the show and be able to say, we're right now under the shadow of the Hollywood sign. So we kind of are then.
Yeah, and another landmark, which is right next door, is Trashy Lingerie.
Well, that's what I grew up looking for. So, James, tell us. If you were 3, now tell us, how is it that you wound up in this crazy business of voiceover?
Well, I am unique in that, I'm unique like you are unique in that I think I grew up going, I want to do this stuff. I love voices. I love entertaining in that fashion. I love the fact that I could be 42 and play an 11-year-old and then in the same episode play an 80-year-old and then have nobody know, hopefully, that it's the same person. Or if they do, it's because they know my resume or they know my work or they recognize, the tones of my voice. But that's the beauty of being a voice actor, but also the beauty of storytelling. I love storytelling, and I love the fact that we get to kind of really get entrenched in it more than a regular actor. If I was making my living as an on-camera actor, I'd be very limited right now, and because I ain't leading man material, and I'm comic relief, but with a small window. You know, I mean, David Spade's already got that covered. So I'm screwed. But sorry, I don't know if I can say that on the show.
You can say that and much, much more, trust me.
But so I started at 16 as a stand-up comic, and then at 17 I walked into the local radio station in my hometown of Santa Barbara, and I said, "How do you get into radio?" And they took me for a tour of the station, and the program director liked me, and he said, "Yeah, you want a job sweeping up?" And you know, I was like, "Yeah." So I would hand out bumper stickers at the concerts, and I got to go to we had a big van. There was the K-Tide video van. And we had this big screen TV in the back of it. And you know, back then those things were, I mean, this was the 80s. This thing was gigantic. It was in the back of this huge van that was painted bright red. Coca-Cola sponsored it. And you had big speakers. I'd pull up at the beach, you know, because I lived in a beach town, and crank the station. And then that was my job. And then hand out bumper stickers. And I got paid hardly anything, but you know, what I would do is I would sneak into the production room every night then. And until like 2 in the morning, I would teach myself how to use the equipment, because I'd watch the DJs do their shows, and I befriended all the DJs, and I'd watch them do this stuff, and then I'd go in and copy it, and I'd start figuring out the multi-tracks and all the recording, splicing tape. Wow. And I started just recording my own fake shows, and then I'd give them to the program director, and he'd listen to them, and then he'd go, okay, this is good, do this, do that, change this, do that, don't do that. One night, the overnight DJ didn't show up, and he's like, okay, James, here's your shot.
And how old were you at this time?
I was 17 and a half.
Wow.
Yeah. So I was the youngest guy on the air there. And by the time I was 18, I was the production director at the station, which meant I was responsible for writing, voicing, and producing all of the IDs and the liners and the elements, as well as all the commercials.
Wow.
And they were the big station in town. So by the time I was 21, when I got fired from there, because in radio, you're nobody unless you get fired.
Of course.
I got fired because they had a new program director come in, and we're just fighting this music. It's just blasting in here right now.
It's okay. It sounds great. It's good.
It's anyways, I got fired because they wanted to change up things. So I moved to North Carolina, worked at a radio station there for a little bit, and I decided I've got to come back home and work in animation. So I set a goal, and because I knew that's what I really wanted to do. Came home and was about to get married. Had no job, got a job at the Easy Listening Station. And I was James Taylor. And I was playing James Taylor. So it was pretty funny. And the day before my wedding, the manager of the old station I was at called me up and said, "Do you want your job back? We just fired the person that fired you." I said, "Yeah." I got my job back. And then I started producing morning show radio, and I got a job in Hollywood doing syndicated radio, where I would write, voice, and produce comedy bits. So just like, you know, fake commercials, Saturday Night Live type sketches and things like that, and send them to DJs all over the country. 3,000 stations across the country would subscribe to this, and from there I started putting my demos together. And
You can have some water.
I swallowed wrong.
Yeah, so I was in that for a little while, that crazy business about putting together comedy stuff but for a very, very, very brief time, until I realized, oh wait, I don't listen to the radio. I don't really like it, and I don't think DJs are very funny. So okay, that's it for me.
Yeah. You know, Albert Brooks, one of my comedy heroes, he has this great bit about DJs. You know, it's like, you've got the sewer dwellers, you've got this, and then you have DJs. Yeah. You know. But DJs are just shucking and jiving and doing their thing. Yeah, so it is interesting business.
So what was your very first cartoon?
First big cartoon. My very first cartoon was these ones that were like made for corporate things.
Oh, really?
And I was a box. I still have a copy of this thing. I should post it on my website or something. I was A Complaint. It was a cartoon called A Complaint is a Gift. And I was a complaint. And it was done in the fashion of the old Schoolhouse Rock.
Yeah.
You know, I'm just a bill.
Yeah.
And I think it was drawn by the same company.
Wow.
So it looked like that. And I was this box with legs and a nose and eyes. And
on Capitol Hill.
And it was supposed to teach people lessons in corporate world that when you get a complaint, that means you're learning and you're growing, and take that and use it in your business. So that was like my first thing. But then my first big stuff was for Disney. And I got to do some things for the theme parks. And then they were looking for a voice match for Michael J. Fox for Stuart Little. And I went in and auditioned and got the gig. And it was funny because I was thinking about this actually, how I thought, okay, I don't want them to know that I don't sound like that it's a voice that I'm putting on. So I stayed perpetually kind of in that Michael J. Fox the whole time. And they're like, well, is that your actual voice? Well, that's my voice. Yeah, that's my voice. Yes. So,
it is interesting because that's a weird psychological phenomenon with when you audition. I remember I had an engineer tell me once. He said, this is when I was just starting out. And, when we go into audition, we slate the name of the character and then we go into it. So I would just go in and say, this is Trevor Devall for such and such, and then go into the character. And he would say, you know what you should do? You should always slate in character. And I would be like, why would you do that? I said, because it's a little psychological trick that when the producers hear you as your voice and then they hear the character, they go, oh, he's putting on a voice.
Yeah. I would also, because I do most of my auditions from home now, I have my wife slate it.
Oh, really?
So it's a woman's voice.
That's even better. I gotta get me one of those. A wife. I've heard you can get them here in California.
Yeah, that'll be good for you.
Well, you've obviously had a stellar career, and
now it's over.
And now it's over.
Goodbye, James.
I'm coming to take over. No, I could certainly never do what you do on Johnny Test, that's for sure. And it is such a pleasure to work on that show with you. It's
likewise.
It is awesome. Anyway, let's get on to some mailbag.
Martin's Mailbag.
We have some questions here from a whole bunch of folks. First of all, this is from Martin, who works at YTV, one of the big broadcasters in Canada. And he says, here's a small sample in where you can hear James Arnold Taylor, Johnny Test, as Johnny, Hank Anchorman, the principal, Mr. Mittens, the beekeeper, and Dark Vegan. What's Dark Vegan sound like? I always forget.
Dark Vegan is, I will get you, Johnny Test.
Right.
But then when his helmet comes up, he's more, he's kind of like, he's right there.
I love that show. Batman the Brave and the Bold as Green Arrow and Guy Gardner. Mm-hmm. Star Wars Clone Wars as ObiWan Kenobi, and all of these shows can be seen on Teletoon. Okay, so this first one is from Chris Niosi, who's an animation artist. He says, hey guys, I'm really excited about this episode. You're a big favorites of mine. So often when I'm reading a book, whether it be a novel or a comic or something, one of the first things that comes to mind is that my brain is programmed to cast the characters, usually to specific actors, so I can keep track of what each character in the story should sound like. For the geeks, this also applies to video games, though only if it's a game that doesn't have voiceover in it, of course. For some reason, I get a kick out of non-serious casting for stuff like that, so I'm wondering if I'm just a gigantic nerd or if anyone else does this. All of you guys have worked with such a huge array of actors, just curious to get inside your heads a bit. And P.S. James, you are the best Leonardo, he says.
That's very nice. Well, and they're on the note of Leonardo, Nickelodeon just bought the rights to the Ninja Turtles now. And they had me in to audition. And, of course, I lost it to Jason Biggs of American Pie fame.
Well, yes.
Humped apple pie. So I guess I know what I should have done. But that's very kind, because there's going to be a new movie, and I'm hoping they'll bring us in. So all of you fans, tell them you still want James Arnold Taylor as
Yes,
Leonardo.
exactly. Get on that. So, in terms of what Chris is saying about casting, and I do that all the time.
Yeah.
Especially when I'm reading a novel or something, I think about the actor, and which is why it's weird. I don't know if you follow Game of Thrones or not. But,
no, I haven't seen it yet. I'm kind of waiting, and then I'll get it on DVD.
See,
and
that's
watch it
smart.
on one thing.
I couldn't wait. I had to see what they did, and I have to say, in my opinion, they really captured the spirit of those books so wonderfully.
Really?
But the casting choices sometimes are really different. I'm like, they're good and they work, but I'm just like,
Yeah.
But do you do that? I mean,
I do. Yeah, I think we all do. And it's also kind of with voiceover, we do that. You obsess about, well, wait, who is that? And it's like my wife, my poor wife, would go home and watching television with me. It's like, you know who that is? Yeah. Listen to that. Oh no, I'm seeing. It's Gene Hackman right there.
You must be fun at party.
Yeah. And most of the time, though, then it's followed with me going, why didn't they get a voice actor to do that?
Yeah.
Why didn't they get a celebrity to do that? Oh, sure, the celebrity can make $1 million. It wouldn't have cost them anything to get me to do that.
Wow, it's like we share a brain.
Do I sound bitter?
This is from Melissa. Hi, James. I'm Melissa, and I follow you on Facebook. And as Trevor can tell you, I am awesome. I think it's great that you both are working on Johnny Test together. I have a friend who did animation for the show. Hooray. My question is in regards to Final Fantasy X, the only Final Fantasy game I have ever finished. What were your favorite and least favorite memories of playing Tidus, if you have any?
Yes, Tidus.
Tidus, see, I always get it wrong.
There's a funny story to that very quickly, and I'll answer the question, though. Because, okay, they're in Japan. They're making the trailer. The game was originated in Japan. They had an American voiceover guy there to do the narration for the American trailer. And he said, Tidus. So they went, we have to make it Tidus now. And I'm not doing that in making fun.
It is alright, it is very good. I speak English good too.
You do, you're very good. So, and my daughter's Asian. I'm in the club. But anyway, so yeah, it was one of those things where they had to stick with it. So now it's Tidus is how we say it, but it looks like Titus. The thing about that game is so much of it was ADR because it was done in Japan and it was a dub job. And the second one was the same thing, and then the third one that we just did, and it's a lot of I go in the booth, I say the line, and it literally, the last game we did, my first line in it was, huh. Okay, the first line. 10 minutes later, it's gone like to producers and the writers, and then you have translators because you have people from Japan that are there. And the problem is, huh, in American or in English does not translate the same as it does in Japan, in Japanese. So it would be, And I said, why? If I go, people are going to think I'm crazy. Again, I'm not making fun. I'm just saying that's how it translates. So that game can be very monotonous in some parts, but also very frustrating at parts because you go, I want to get the acting right. I want to make it what it would be for the American. And they go, no. You just don't understand it. And then also they only have so much time. So they'll time compress you. So if you play that game, I'll say certain lines, and I'm talking really fast like that, because they time compress my voice. So it can be frustrating, but at the same time, that game was really rewarding for me, and it was one of the first things that really got me a lot of attention. I love the character, I love the game, I love the storyline, I love what the original Japanese was as well. So yeah.
Cool. This one is from Kate Lind. Hi, Trevor and James. James, I think you are very talented, and I've enjoyed a lot of your work. My question for the both of you, what do you enjoy more, comedy or more heavy drama?
I think we get to play comedy a lot more just as voice actors in animation. But I enjoy drama. I was doing a Young Justice, which is a new series that's coming out here. I guess it's in the second season on Cartoon Network. Today I was doing a guest spot on there, and it ended the show very dramatic, and I like that. I like those challenges, especially in voice acting, because we are usually then, when you're doing drama, I'm sure you find this, you're not usually in your own voice.
Yeah.
You're in some, character.
Yeah.
And that's fun. I like that. That's fun to do.
The very serious voice.
Yeah. And most dramatic actors will tell you that comedy's the hardest thing in the world, and I guess it is.
I guess.
Yeah. We're just so talented at it, it doesn't appear. It's very difficult.
It's tough, yeah. I mean, I like doing the drama. It is fun. And I've done a lot of it, especially with the anime stuff. We've done a lot of really serious, like Death Note, and these shows are very, very serious. But then I just, you don't want to hear the outtakes because I'm not taking seriously at all. I can't.
I guess it's mostly comedy for me.
It's like I always say, the biggest room of potty mouths are voice actors.
Oh, yeah.
And I don't usually fit in. I'm not one to cuss. And it's always the women. They swear like sailors. The first with the dirty jokes, yeah.
Oh, yes.
This is from Rob, and it's Sydney, Australia. G'day from Australia. Been a fan of Voiceprint for a bit now, and keep it up, Trev. James, I admit I haven't heard all of your work, but I just wanted to send in a couple of quick questions for both of you. The first one is for James. Yes, did you do the voice of ObiWan Kenobi in the recent Clone Wars movie? Yes, of course, the answer is yes for that. What is it like stepping into the shoes of a role that has been played by Alec Guinness and Ewan McGregor?
It's fascinating, and the thing is I've actually voiced more Obi-Wan Kenobi than any other actor, and I've been him longer than anybody, and it's really a trip to say that, because I don't say that like, oh, aren't I wonderful? I say it as, wow. I wake up sometimes and kind of go, really?
Yeah.
Me? I mean, if somebody told me as a kid that I was going to be Obi-Wan Kenobi, I would have been like, the old guy? But these aren't the droids you're looking at. So I do my best to combine and pay proper tribute to both Alec Guinness and Ewan McGregor. I was, of course, hired as a voice double initially for McGregor, who I think is fantastic. I think he's just a great actor. Seems like a great guy. And he's very tall.
Is he?
Well, I mean, I'm 5'4", so yeah. But yeah, we were at the Empire Strikes Back screening 30-year thing this last year together, and it's funny. I'm on the red carpet, and they're taking pictures of me. I feel, oh, it's very good. It's Obi-Wan Kenobi and all this, and then somebody goes, "There's Ewan McGregor," and then boom, everything just changes. I'm getting pictures with the Make-A-Wish child that's there, and she doesn't even care about it. It's Ewan McGregor. I'm the real Obi-Wan. I'm like, oh man.
And there's Alec Guinness on the sidelines going, those aren't the Obi-Wans you're looking for.
I'm a ghost.
For both of you, what is your favorite Star Wars fighter craft? X-Wing, Y-Wing, A-Wing, TIE Fighter, TIE Bomber, TIE Interceptor?
Wow, that's a cool question.
Yes, it is. I'm going with A-Wing because they're super fast and I could play them with excellence in the video game.
Really? Yeah.
Back in the day. Back in the day when that video game was a lot of fun to play. It's not anymore. There used to be a flight simulator. That was very cool. It's like you were in the cockpit, man.
The problem now is the voice. The voices. The voice of Obi-Wan is probably the biggest problem. No, I'm kidding. I like the X-Wing. I'm old school, baby. I like the old X-Wing.
It's solid. It's, it's a bit of a workhorse. It gets you there, gets the job done. Yeah?
It's just also because now on our show, you just don't see it. So like when I see him now, I watch Star Wars and stuff, I go, X-Wing, cool. Yes. TIE Fighter, cool, yeah.
Here we are. Hello, my name is Belinda from Brisbane, Australia, 19 years old. May I just say that I think you guys are incredible and you have the best job in the world. And as thank you for that. And I don't think voice actors are appreciated enough. Well, no argument there.
If you only heard the talk over lunch.
But on topic, I, as an Australian, don't get to see or meet many voice actors because you people rarely... You people rarely come to Australia. I'm not sure why. It just might be because it's anime world, or because its anime world is smaller than those in Canada and other countries. But still, Voiceprint was a welcome gift. Well, I'll tell you, I would go to Australia in a heartbeat.
Would you?
I would.
Because, there is a convention there, and last year I got invited to it, but I couldn't make it. I already had a prior commitment for Disney for a Star Wars thing that we did. And I was like, I want to go. And so they're you would?
I'm thinking something.
So if there's an invite, I'll say I'll only go if Trevor Devall can come with me.
Done. We'll be Dookie and Johnny and down under. Perfect. Yeah. I've been trying to get there for a while. Like, that would be...
to me, it would be awesome. Wouldn't that be...
Totally.
Awesome.
But it's so... it's a long way to go. It's a big flight.
And it's the next day when you get there.
That's right.
I mean, like, today is tomorrow there.
Right. You're in the future, Belinda. What's it like in the future? Do hamburgers eat people?
She should know the answers to our questions.
Exactly. How does this episode end, Belinda? That's what I want to know. This is a question from someone who is unknown. No. Yes, someone for... Yes, I can't tell. Doesn't matter. What was it like...
They'll know.
What are the differences? Yes, they'll know. What are the differences between doing a video game voiceover and something like any other cartoon?
Well, excellent question. I'm glad you asked. No name. Insert name here. No, it's very different in that with a video game, you're always alone. Now with Johnny, I'm alone for the most part, except now we're on the phone together, which is nice. Goodness. But usually when you do an animated show like Clone Wars or something, we're all in the round. It's like a radio play. And video games, you're always alone, and I think a lot of that is because video games are so intensive in the volume of words that you have to say. It's usually a phone book. Yeah. They figure it's more cost-effective to just have the actor there, because they also know that all of us tend to gab. When we're all put in the room, they book you for 4 hours because they know for 3 of those hours you will talk. So, yeah, there's a difference there. Also, video games are the most straining, I think, vocally. Yeah. And Also, the writing and the directing and the producing and such is usually different. It's a different world.
Yeah,
They
it
work
really
on it.
does have a different feel, I find, in virtually every way. The other part of the question is, do you play the games you do the voices for, or buy the DVDs of the series you lend your voice to? And if so, what are some of your favorites?
The best part is, yes, I do buy them because they don't send me copies.
Oh, is it the same down here? See, again, I thought in America they give to the actor this gift. Yes, take this gift of your show. But no.
It's very rare. I really have to be on top of it to say, okay, I want, in my contract, I want 2 copies at least of what I do.
Wow.
It's hard to get them to send you copies of these
they're
things.
cheap.
They are cheap. And so when I get them, I play them, and when I get the shows, I watch them, I'm a ham. I like watching what I did. Not because I want to sit there and go, oh, aren't I great? But because I go, I love acting, and I love being in things that are cool with all these cool people, and I want to hear what they did, and I want to hear what I did, and I want to hear how I compare, and if I'm actually in the right pocket, and it's just fun. I mean, people that go, oh, I never watched my work. Well, then why are you acting?
Yeah, exactly.
Or you're acting now. You're lying.
Hello, Trevor. First-time writer, long-time listener. After constantly checking the site, eagerly awaiting the newest Voiceprint episode, I began to fall into despair and feared the worst had come. No new episodes meant it was time, so I took out my shovel and was heading outside when I thought one last look at the site would help me bury the now dead Voiceprint. But to my utter surprise, lo and behold, there was episode 30, fresh from the grave. Fresh my joy. Anyway, yes, very, very funny. On to my questions. This is from Anna from Newmarket, Ontario. The question's for James. 1. If you could have dinner with anyone in the world, who would it be? Use of a time machine is applicable. Note any species is also possible. That's check question number 1.
Well, I am having lunch with the one person I would want to.
Oh, stop! Trevor Devall.
Wow, that's a great question. Who would I want to? Well, as a good Christian boy, I would say Christ would be right there on top for me. But also, I wouldn't put it past Yoda. It would be fun.
Well, so both time and dimension
There you go.
is the machine.
No, Johnny Carson. I would think Johnny Carson would be a good one. There's a lot of different people that I would love to have dinner with and just talk to. I got to meet Sting once, which was really cool.
Wow.
When I was a DJ.
Wow.
But I would love to have dinner with Sting. Wouldn't that be fun? Kennedy would have been fun.
Yeah.
So you could say, hey, just put the top up. I kid. I don't mean that the way that sounds, but no.
I'm thinking Texas. It's a little hot this type of year. You really, I can cancel that tour.
No, but honestly though, wouldn't that be cool? There's all sorts of people like that. I was such a big fan of Harrison Ford's growing up. As a kid, he was kind of my surrogate father, growing up without a father in the house, and that was one I always dreamed of. Oh, wouldn't that be cool to just have a night, there of like talking about movies and things, and and then you realize he probably just hated it.
I don't care, kid.
It's just a job, kid. It's just a job. Question number 2. What's it like working with Trevor? It's a nightmare.
Oh, well, it's funny because I didn't get to work with Louis at all, the previous voice of Dookie, who
was a great guy.
A great guy, and so this has been so fun because we have been able to really bond, and I think rather quickly. And it's great fun. I had so much fun that day that we got to work. Well, a couple days, right?
Yeah.
We had 2 days.
Yeah.
And then we had to sing.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like we were put in the trenches, man.
Oh yeah.
The war, the VO war trenches.
Get in there.
I don't want to sing, sir.
You gotta get in there and sing.
But I can't sing.
Yes, you can.
And
You're going over the top, soldier.
And we experienced Christmas and Halloween and
That's right.
every holiday.
All in 2 days.
In 2 days. It is great fun. I miss it though. And the problem when we do the shows now on the phone is we can't joke really.
Yeah.
Like last session we had, it was you and me only.
Yeah.
And I wanted to keep interjecting, but I'm like, I know I can't because then the director comes on and they want to kind of give you notes and stuff, and it's like I'm just going to be interrupting.
Yeah.
but know that I'm wanting.
That's exactly the same way. Like I think I told you this before, but one of the very first things that happened when you first came on the line with us and started recording the show, you made a reference to Indiana Jones.
Yeah, I did.
Like it was a Belloc. Yeah, that was it. That was it from Raiders. And I was just like, oh, I wanted to riff, but I thought, no, I can't riff because it's losing time.
Kindred spirits.
Yeah.
Anyway, this one is from Gen. Mr. James Arnold Taylor, I'm a huge fan of your work, especially that of Star Wars, Final Fantasy, and Kingdom Hearts. I even recently found out that you were in Family Guy and Nausicaa of the Valley of the Wind.
Yes, I was in Nausicaa. I wasn't in Family Guy.
Oh, weird.
I do the promos
on Fox.
Oh, I see.
Perfect.
Coming up next, it's Family Guy. Animation domination. Yeah.
All that stuff. Maybe that's what they were thinking.
Perhaps, yes, perhaps. What was it like working on Final Fantasy and Kingdom Hearts? Those are my two favorite video games, and I've never gotten the chance to speak to somebody who's voiced in either of them, so I feel really privileged sending this email in question. Final Fantasy was the one you talked about before, right?
Yeah, that's very nice. Yeah, Final Fantasy was great. That took about 3.5 months. It was quite a process.
Really?
And it was a phone book. It was wild. And it was in the beginning of my real start of my voiceover career. It's amazing. It's been over 10 years now. But my work being recognized as a voice actor.
Right.
And then Kingdom Hearts was great because I got to be Johnny Depp. I was Jack Sparrow in that. And that was fun. You know, Disney projects are always fun. They always treat you well, and in the session and such. But because they're used to working with celebrities, so they kind of get used to treating you a certain way, and then it's a voice actor. No, but it was fun. Those were great. It's fun to work with the producers that know the stories so well, because you usually walk in and you have no idea what you're doing. And people always go, "What's your favorite line?" And I go, "Well, what's your favorite line that I said?" And then they say it, and I go, "That's my favorite too," because we work on these things and we have no idea of context or what. You know how it is.
Yeah, absolutely. This one is from James Puso Pimp Puzo. James Puso Pimp Puzo. Basically, the question is, have you ever met any of the celebrities that you've impersonated?
Aha. Yeah. I have. The thing is I don't get to meet a lot of the ones that I do the voice of.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. Although John Ratzenberger is a friend of mine, in that we know each other in passing and see each other, maybe once a year or so. And I've been his double for P.T. Flea for all the Pixar stuff, and the Bug's Life. But I've never told him that I'm his double.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I don't think he'd, like that.
But Michael J. Fox I've never met, which I would love to meet him sometime.
Good Canadian boy.
Yeah, that's right. And David Spade knows of me because he is the one that recommends me when they say, "Yeah, we need we need you to do ADR." I get James out there. So, and Johnny Depp, when I did his first stuff for Willy Wonka, he said he wanted my home number, my cell number, because he wanted to call me. He was doing Pirates at the time, the sequels, and he was listening to my voice in the Caribbean, and if he didn't like what he heard, he was going to call me and give me direction. So much to my wife's chagrin, he never called. But yeah, so I haven't. Christopher Walken once. I was we had the same agent, and I'm in the lobby with a buddy of mine, another voice actor, and we're talking, and Christopher Walken walks in, and he's in sweats and a members only jacket, which is just classic. and he walks in and he goes up to the front and he says, I don't know what he said. He kind of mumbled something, and yes, Mr. Walken. And the guy goes away, the young security guy there, and so Christopher Walken is now waiting. So we're having our conversation, kind of like you and I are right here, and he just starts kind of hovering around us. We're both kind of that's Christopher Walken, right? And Christopher Walken, and he's just looking at us and walking around,
circling the prey.
Yeah, and then they bring him this duffel bag, and he takes the duffel bag and he leaves. And I was like, that's funny. So, yeah. And the restaurant that we're in, I was here one day with Justin Timberlake, came in, and I do his voice, but I didn't introduce myself. I feel funny saying, "Hey, I do your voice."
Yeah, that's
really creepy.
This is from Mark in Maryland. Would you ever, this is for the both of us, would you ever consider coming to Otakon in Baltimore?
Lovely Baltimore.
Lovely Baltimore.
Why would I not consider it? Yeah, I mean, if there was something there that, I needed to go and do, I certainly would be there.
Write your local Baltimore conventions, kids. Ask for James Taylor and Trevor Devall. This one is from Coral in South Africa. Wow. James, just want to tell you what a marvelous job you did playing Leo in the 2007 Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie. I was incredibly skeptical of the movie before it came out, but you guys did a really great job. My question is for both of you. How do you know if you are voice actor material? Some of us might want to get into the voice acting business, but aren't sure if we'll be any good. Do you have any advice?
I do. I do. The thing I always try to tell people, because I think what happens, especially with you and I, we do a lot of voices, a lot of characters, a lot of impressions, and all that. And people go, "Hey, I do voices," and I go, "No, bye-bye." Do you do your own voice? The most important thing is can you be any emotion in your own voice? Can you own that voice and know it and understand it? Not put on headphones and hear it and go, "Oh, what is that? I sound weird." But actually understand your own voice. That's number one thing. Second, and first, it's all the same. You have to be able to act. You have to be able to act. And I think so many people think voice acting isn't acting. And I always say, well, okay, what requires more acting? For me to go in and be an 80-year-old and an 11-year-old in an animated series, movie, whatever, or for someone like Brad Pitt to walk in and be a 30-something attractive guy that talks in a way and does his thing. That's not taking anything away from him as an actor. He's a great actor. I really enjoy his stuff. But we have to be all these different characters, and that requires acting. That's not playing, that's acting, because it has to be believable. If it's not believable, then we're not voice actors. We're people that do voices.
Yes, we're crazy people.
That's right.
Yes, and I concur wholeheartedly with that, actually. We have a common saying when we teach back home, which is exactly the same thing. It's basically there's two words in voice acting. One of them's voice, one of them's acting, and by far the most important one is acting. We all have a voice. Not everybody can be an actor, but yeah, right. 100%. Yeah. This is from Michael in Toronto. Just like to say that, James, you're a very iconic voice actor, and not because of your roles in Johnny Test, Star Wars Clone Wars, and TMNT, but because you got to be one of the very first video games stateside that featured voice acting, which was Final Fantasy X. Yeah. So, these days in the video game industry, voice acting is a very common element in terms of the overall feel and production of a video game, unlike previous generations. Lately, I've been playing Naruto, The Broken Bond for Xbox 360, which features the voice actors from the show. I've noticed at times in video games the voiceover track doesn't match the mouth flaps of the characters. For example, if a character says a line and then stops talking, sometimes the image on screen will show the character's mouth still moving even though he stopped speaking. Are video games recorded the same way as anime is, by matching the flaps, or is the process more like pre-lay animation, or is it an entirely different process? Some games are pretty bad, but some are very good with respect to matching the character mouth movements. I know that from my own experience of that, most of the games that I do are basically like pre-lay, except that there's no other actors in the booth, just like you were saying before, right? Like you'll sit there and you've got 300 lines and you just do them. Yeah. But there are some games, especially the Japanese ones, where you do actually have to do the 8 hour later. But I know that our directors are really, really, really picky about that, about the flaps, yeah, and matching the flaps. So I don't know. What's your experience with that?
Yeah, we do try to kind of match it the best we can, and I know that they get really picky on that as well. And we'll add words, we'll take away words, we'll shorten sentences, stretch them out to try to make it work sometimes because it's. But generally, the short answer is because it's primarily done in another language before it's done in our language, which is why you're seeing that delay or that extension of the mouth flap. And some of it too is with the games, they have. Within the program, it has to fit so much time in there, and I think sometimes they program that part. It's somebody like sitting there getting numbers. They're punching in numbers, and so they time compress the voice to 1.7 seconds, and they don't see that the lip flap actually goes for 2.3. Yeah. And so they kind of we got it at the starting and whatever, because it is an annoying thing, and the problem also is actors take the blame. We get the heat for everything. People, you know, in Final Fantasy, people either loved me or hated me. You know, oh, he's so whiny. Oh, he's stupid. Yeah, I hate you. I'm like, wow, thank you, man. I love that. And people forget that there's producers, writers, and directors, and all those people getting us through these things. And you walk out of a session sometimes going, I never would have done that if it was left up to me. And I'm not making an excuse either. But yeah, we take the brunt of a lot of it.
Tell me about it. This one here is from David from New York City. He says, I've been a huge fan of Voiceprint for quite some time, but never, for some reason, had the confidence to send in a question. Yet, when I heard James Arnold Taylor, one of my favorite voice actors, was going to be on the show, I have no choice but to ask a question. What are your thoughts on the infamous laughing scene in Final Fantasy X? Now, I don't know what this refers to, so do tell.
So in the game, there were a lot of movies that we had that were, you know, you have to do, and those we would do to picture, and we would lip flap, you know, the best we could. There's a scene where Yuna, the lovely character that is Tidus's love interest, teaches him to laugh. And so he has to laugh, and he's never laughed before. So it's ha, 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 ha. You know, so they play me the Japanese version, and again, it's very different.
Yeah.
He laughs differently than me, his voice sounds different than mine, and I have to kind of Americanize it and all that, and do this really uncomfortable laugh. And then also do it to picture.
Right.
So it's matching what he did. Right. So I am having to kind of copy the meter that he did, but do it in my own thing. So it's a funny scene. I watch it every once in a while. I'll go on YouTube and pull it up and watch that scene, you know, and he's got to laugh. And then he does it, you know, and that's the other thing is in that game I had to kind of talk a little like that. You know how it is with a lot of anime things. It's very, very stylized in that too. It becomes a style because we're trying to match things. Yeah. But yeah, that scene is a crack up to me, but it's it's fun because usually as voice actors we're called to fake laugh on things, but never like that. I've never had to laugh like that since either. So yeah.
This is another question from David. What was your guys' favorite Johnny Test episode? Well, obviously I've only been on the show for one season, which is the 5th season, so I can only speak to that one. But if you had to pick a favorite episode, what would it be?
Wow. I liked Super Smarty Pants from the first season, I think.
Is that the one where the pants basically make him into like some weird supervillain guy?
Yeah, and I don't know if that gives anything away, but Super Smarty Pants do have a return this season.
I remember. Oh yes, okay.
Yeah.
That's why I know that. I had a good episode where Dookie gets turned into like a really. What was he? It was like a really posh guy or something.
Yeah, and I don't know how much we can give away on that. But
I don't want to talk about it too much.
I would say that was my favorite of yours as well, and everybody was so blown away by that, by your performance on that. I'll toot your horn now, because you had to do Dookie as like 2 or 3 other versions of Dookie. Right. And it was very cool. Plus, your other characters in the show all the time too. Right. And I'm always surprised by that. Like, which ones are you gotta pick it out? Okay. Well, that's Trevor. Oh, that's Trevor. No. That's it.
Well, it's an incredible cast. I mean, you're incredibly versatile, and guys like Scott McNeil on that show, and so it's Ian Corlett. I mean, it's a fantastic cast, and everybody is so. I mean, it was so great when you finally came up to actually do a show with us, and you got to meet all the guys, and it's super fun, that show. One final question. This is also from Michael in Toronto, but this is a very good one, and I think this actually speaks a lot to what we were discussing at lunch.
Okay.
I don't think this question has been asked yet, so here it is. In our current society, it is common knowledge that certain details of a celebrity's life are known by the general public, such as their political beliefs and their stance on certain issues, for example. With the advent of the internet and things like Facebook and Twitter, it has become easier for things you wish to keep private to become publicly known. I noticed that some voice actors have separate accounts or groups on Facebook created specifically for their fans, and that their personal accounts they like to keep private. I haven't been to many conventions in a while due to me being occupied with school full-time, but at the last one I attended, I was amazed at how much certain fans know about certain voice actors. Sometimes I felt that it was actually a bit too much, and I found it a bit scary and disturbing. Do you ever find it surprising or startling that some fans know more about you than you think they should?
Yes, I do. To speak to that exactly, I do have a Facebook page that is my own, and then I have my fan page, and I get daily people asking to be my friends on my Facebook, on my regular one, and I have to, say, well, look, this is for me to, with, high school friends or family or whatever. So much so that I'm trying to contact Facebook to see if I can actually get rid of it. See, the way it is you need to set up a personal page before you can set up a fan page. Or at least that's how it was when I first started. They may have changed it now, but I have both accounts now, and I can't. So my publicist has been trying to do it because people do try to hack in and find out stuff. And I mean, I have pictures of my daughter on there, or my family. I have just, if family goes on a vacation or something. It's like, I don't want. Give me some privacy. Come on. And we're not. We talked about this a bit too. We're not in the zeitgeist. We're not huge celebrities, but I think that people that play the games and watch the shows and study all of our work, they think of us in the same fashion, which I am very grateful that they would put us in the same stature, because I think we are all our actors and performers the same. But that said, you don't get that privacy, really. Sometimes people will laugh at me. Oh, your phone number's unlisted. Oh, it's like, well, yeah, because I've had, through 25 plus years of working in entertainment, I've had some things, some stalkery kind of things happen in the past, and it can be scary, especially if it's like I have a daughter, I have a wife. Try to keep those things private, Yeah,
it is tough. I said jokingly before that these people know more about our careers than we do, and that's true. And most of the case, when I do conventions and stuff, and people will quote episode details that I'd forgotten I ever was a part of that show. That's one thing, but occasionally you have to deal with some overly exuberant fans who want to get a little closer than maybe is appropriate. And it's tough, but there's a reason why a lot of the conventions, they give us handlers, right? People who are really there to just keep that professional distance between,
That's been, and there's been some things, I won't mention the show or the things, but I've had co-stars that are of the female persuasion, that their handlers ended up being some of those stalkery fans that kind of got through that not fourth wall, but you know what I mean, that reach of security, because they conned their way into it, but so they could sit there right next to them and breathe heavily and put a sweaty palm on them. But it does happen, and I mean, and that's a bummer. It's just a bummer if people can't kind of see past that we're all just, because I think it's the other thing with most voice actors, we're very approachable, and we try to be approachable, and we're big fans of stuff too. I'm a huge comic book fan. I'm a huge Star Wars fan, and I'm a huge Johnny Test fan. I love the work that I work in, I love comedy, and I love acting, and I love movies, and so I'm as much of a fan as anybody. But you have a great group of fans here, I will say.
Well, they're quick on the draw with the questions. Like I said, as soon as I announced the show, these questions came pouring in from all over. So
awesome.
So thanks guys for the questions. That was great. And thank you for taking the time to do the show and for humoring me as I come down to your beautiful country. And we'll do it again real soon. And I come back, or you come back up north, or whatever the case might be.
I'm told that I will be coming back up to record with you guys again.
Awesome. Well, I look forward to it. As I'm sure do all of you. Our next guest on the show is, of course, Mr. David Kay. Now, you have already asked your questions for David because I announced him at the same time I announced James here. So, no need for me to go through the regular litany of send in your questions to Trevor at TrevorDevall.com because it's too late for that. David and I will be getting together tomorrow night, and I will record the episode then, and I will put up the episode sort of as they get edited. So, sit tight, my friends, and I shall see you. Oh, and there he is, sending me a text. Hello, David. Hello, David. Anyway, he interrupted my sign-out, the bastard. Thanks again, Jane.
Thank you, Trevor. Thank you.
See you on the flip side.